Good morning, Dean.
Good morning.
Well, I'll introduce Rick Simpson is on the air with us this morning. For those of you who don't know, Rick has been a major activist for the marijuana, medicinal oil, and he, Dean, you might not know, but he was out of the country. Rick was out of the country for a while, but he's here temporarily. And I would like, Rick, if you could elaborate on where you stand now, why you're not planning on living in Canada, and where you are living.
Yeah, there's no question. I want an update on that. I've been wondering myself, Ben, just so you know, by the way, I've given lots of family members and friends, I'm getting some feedback, links to all your videos so that I could, people that have been sick and, going to be going in for radiation therapy and stuff like that. So I sent them links to all your videos, and I was aware of them years ago. And it changes a lot of people's minds. They usually get back to me right away and they're like, well, that's amazing. Can you get us some? And now there's a problem. So now the people are all interested because they've seen the video and they're like, well, man, I want to give that a try. Nobody can get any. They can't get it. So
well, they can get it, Dean. All they have to do is grow it. The same as I did.
That's exactly it.
But that's just too much for most people to bother with, isn't it?
It is.
I think it's totally pathetic. I mean, why are we so helpless?
Well,
this is just a plant.
It's the fear that SWAT's going to come and take your house down for growing cancer therapy, right? And that's what we're trying to work on. That's why we're taking the law approach here. We're restoring people's rights and freedoms so they feel safe to do that kind of stuff. And then once we've done that, people like you have the cures that people are looking for cancer. So, what's going on with your charges? What's going on with you? Where have you been? And what are you going to be doing?
Well, as you know, I mean, I went through this ridiculous court case back in 2007, and I mean, thanks to the Crown prosecutor going in and tampering with the jury to make sure I was found guilty. But I mean, that was just a bunch of hogwash. It was the greatest kangaroo court case in Canadian history, as far as I'm concerned. Our legal system is totally corrupted. These people are just pathetic.
Just so you're aware, they're all kangaroo courts, and I've had judges admit that to me. Every single one of them is convened without any lawful authority, so you're completely correct. Now continue.
Well, I mean, the thing is with this, this issue concerns the health and well-being of every man, woman, and child on this earth. So how dare they do what they did? I mean, it was just beyond belief. But for about almost 2 years, they left me alone, and I just continued on treating people, everyone I could. And then in 2009, I went to the Cannabis. They invited me to come to the Cannabis Cup to do a seminar, and they were going to make me Freedom Fighter of the Year. And about a week after I left for the Cannabis Cup, I got word from back home from my son that I'd been raided again. And they come up with all this nonsense. They found restricted weapons, 70 pounds of pot, and booby traps, and and they released all this nonsense to the press. And of course, to paint the picture that I'm some kind of dangerous person, And in truth, what was left at my home was a child's pellet gun. Perfectly legal. Any 10-year-old could go in and buy the same damn pellet rifle at Canadian Tire. But, and there was no 70 pounds of pot. They went out and there's hundreds of pounds of compost on the hillside behind my home. Because every time when I make the medicine, I dump it out on the hillside, the leftovers, because there's no more good. So they dug up 70 pounds of that and carted it away. That was their evidence. They were trying to frame me. So when I got word, in Europe what was taking place, well, I knew then, because I'd already been through the legal system here, and I knew it was nothing but a dirty joke. So, and I also knew that, people needed more time to become aware of what's really going on here. So and I also needed the time to write the book on this subject, to bring the truth to the public. So I stayed on in Europe, and over the last 3 years, I've been in 20 different countries. I've done many seminars. Actually, in a couple of countries over there, I was even on national television over this issue. And just lately here, the Czech Republic has legalized the medicinal use, and I think that's I'm getting the credit for it. Well, the Industry Spare contacted me and said that as far as he's concerned, if I had never gone to the Czech Republic, the medicinal use of cannabis would never have happened. But they're going to start treating people there with the oil with cancer, as I understand it. So this thing should be opening up very rapidly. But the same is going on in many different countries all over the world. There's a lot of people becoming aware of this now. But last spring, the Canadian government or the prosecutor here in Amherst, they withdrew the charges because, I mean, they couldn't make them stick anyway. The whole thing was a sham. So I came back to Canada last summer for about 6 weeks, and then I left again, went back to Europe and did the World Hemp Congress in Slovenia, and then I did 2 more seminars in Croatia, and I was on national television again in Croatia. You know, I mean, I'm making as much noise as I possibly can, but I'm only one man, and I don't really have the funding to do this the way it should be done. So it's been a real uphill battle all the way. But I came back to Canada last November, well, I mean, literally totally exhausted. I was down to 130 some odd pounds, and that's not good. So I regenerated myself a bit over the last few months. I'm back up to about 160 again, and I'm feeling a bit better. But when I came back to Canada, I mean, I was both physically and mentally exhausted, you know, from all I'd been through. But I continued on with all of these interviews, and I mean, we're doing so many now. I think last week I did 7 or 8 different interviews. So this thing is spreading, you know, very rapidly, but I just don't know. I mean, I look at Canada, well, the U.S., even the U.S., I mean, they got 17 states now that are legal, and there's a whole bunch more now that are going to become legal. I mean, I think within a year and a half, every state in the Union will be legal. But I mean, when you look at what's going on here in Canada with Harper, you know, I mean, they're going in just the opposite direction. So I think, you know, in the end, the Canadian people are going to be very damn upset with Mr. Harper and all these governments, because in reality, they put this absurd law in place in Canada in 1923. They took the most medicinal plant in the world out of medicine. So for the last 90 years, every government in this country has been committing genocide against their own people. Now that's a pretty serious charge, but when you deny a medicine that can save their lives, a natural, harmless medicine, then what are you guilty of? That is genocide, and all these doctors, the legal system, the whole bunch of them, they're all guilty of complicity in genocide because they've gone right along with the government. You know, I mean, I can make excuses for these people if there was something difficult about this, but what I showed the world years ago, it's no harder than adding 2 and 2. You know, take plant material, take solvent, take a rice cooker, make a little bit of oil, put it on a cancer, watch what happens. Anybody can prove it. You know, but they're still running around like they're still looking for the cure. You know, and here this on April, the Canadian Cancer Society, it's Daffodil Month. You know, and you get your daffodil pins and send them money. Well, we've been sending those idiots hundreds of millions of dollars over the years. I mean, they've collected probably well over $1 billion. The Terry Fox Foundation, that's collected somewhere around $500 million. You know, what are these people doing with this money? And I mean, I went to the Canadian Cancer Society years ago, back in early 2004, and I told them what the cure for cancer was. What have they done about it?
Well, they've done exactly what they planned on doing about it. Nothing. And they're far from idiots if they can make an entire world of people, give them hundreds and hundreds and hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars every year for the better part of 100 years, for nothing. That's not stupidity, that's genius. They got rich off of dying and sick people and pulling on the heartstrings of everybody that wants to help them and doing nothing about it. That's far from stupid. That's genius.
I wouldn't call it genius. I would call this more like psychopath.
Oh, it's diabolical. It's still genius, but it's like the evil side of genius. So we'll call it diabolical. It's diabolical is what it is. They have no intention of curing people. I think everyone's starting to wake up to that. And how poetic was it actually? And it was humorous that I got home last night from passing out flyers at the 420 Festival at the Legislative Building yesterday to find out you were going to be on the show this morning. So I was like, yeah, that's poetic. I like that. So we spent some of the afternoon talking to people at the Legislative Grounds, and how fantastic to see. There must have been 3,000 people there, I'm thinking. All for the 420 celebration, lots of police. We tried talking to a few police and shaking hands, and they didn't want to talk to us. Tried passing them out some flyers to let them know that the government doesn't need to legalize marijuana because it's never been unlawful. It's never been, I'll even say illegal. I don't care. So we walked around letting everybody know, hey, it's already illegal. It's a human right. It's already legal. It's a human right. You cannot turn a right, you cannot convert a right into a criminal act. You have the right to do it, period. Doesn't matter what the government says. So there's a lot of people that really like that. So,
I would agree completely with that statement.
Yeah, who cares what they've criminalized? I stopped listening to them 15 years ago, right? I don't care what they have to say. There's nothing that they can try to outlaw or to make illegal that I would even remotely care about. So, interesting that you tell me that the Crown withdrew the charges against you, by the way, because if they withdrew, they admit that they had no claim against you, which means you now have a massive frivolous filing and defamation lawsuit against the government of Canada.
Well, I mean, in truth, the Canadian government owe me millions and millions of dollars. I mean, if you use their price scale for the price of hemp, what they charge medicinal users, they stole millions of dollars worth of hemp right from my backyard.
They confessed to stealing 70 pounds of your own property from you, and that should be part of a lawsuit. How wouldn't that be a great lawsuit against Canada for you to head up? Would be the theft of your pot. I guarantee it'd be the first one.
Well, I mean, it's not only the theft of pot. I mean, I did everything right, Dean. I went to all the right people. I didn't hide anything. I went to newspapers a year before I was ever charged, and they did full-page articles detailing everything I was doing.
Yep.
So would a criminal go to a newspaper?
You mean you were trying to be honorable? Okay.
Well, I was totally honorable about this. I mean, I went to the Cancer Society. I went to all the political parties in this country over this issue. I went to David Suzuki. We went everywhere. We were even to the United Nations, and nobody would do a damn thing.
Nope.
So there's the world we live in. But, I think it's time for people to wake up in this country and stop voting for these stupid political parties. Because every damn one of them are corrupted. I mean, the big money the big money years ago bought all the parties. So it doesn't really make any difference who's in power up there. I laughed the other day. One guy said to me, he said, well, soon Harper will be gone, and when the Liberals get in, they'll make the change. And I just looked at him and I said, it was a Liberal government that I went to originally in 2003. Anne McClellan was the Federal Minister of Health. So, don't give me that Liberal nonsense. And the NDP are no damn better, and neither are the Green Party. It's time for people in this country to vote for independent people. We're always told by the parties, if you don't vote for a party, you're throwing your vote away. I mean, the bottom line is, if you don't vote for an independent, you're not going to have anybody to represent you. Because these parties, these people that represent these parties, all they do is toe the party line. And the party line is corruption. If you put an independent in place representing you, he's going to work for you. And I think it's just about time that we close Ottawa down and turn it into a museum, and that we let this country be run by a think tank. Take two of the smartest in fishery, two of the smartest in forestry, two of the smartest in medicine. Get about 24 people, put them in a think tank, let them make the day-to-day decisions that run this country. And everything that is done in the future should be done with an open book policy to the public. No more secret meetings, nothing hidden. And then we can get rid of all this corruption.
Well, 90% of what the government does is unnecessary. They're engaged in world and foreign affairs and charity to all these countries like Israel, who apparently needs charity, and spending our money in ways that we don't want spent on everything and anyone but us. When really 10% of what the government does, which is road maintenance and the infrastructure and running Health Canada, stuff like that. If Health Canada could be turned into Good Health Canada, that'd be a good thing as well. But we've got a bit of a different take on that. Instead of just stop voting or vote for independence, vote for independent runners in these elections. Canada, the alleged government of Canada, never was created by us or for us. It was created in the United Kingdom, and it was installed and started telling us what to do. So our different take is to do something along the lines of what Iceland has done, and just not vote in their system anymore at all, and create our own government, a whole new one right from scratch. It's by us and for us, our own constitution, and just leave these guys have had 100 years to prove themselves to be a responsible government. They've shown their true colors. They've had their chance. I don't think they could have done a worse job. I spoke about that on one of the radio shows there a few weeks back. That isn't it interesting that every industry they touch, they destroy. What did they do to the fisheries?
Yes, that's
right. They destroyed it. What have they done to forestry? They've destroyed the forest. What have they done with mining? They've destroyed the environment. They've destroyed everything that they touch that they claim to be regulating. Who the hell would keep giving them a job with that kind of a track record?
Well, if these governments didn't have the mainstream media to spread their propaganda, these governments would have been gone years ago. But it's the mainstream media, that supports them, because the big money owns the media too. Yep. And the people that are actually bringing the truth to the public, we have to do it in venues like this. Although we are winning the battle and we're getting the message out there, it's taken so long, it's just disgusting. I mean, I've been doing this for over 10 years now. You know, and something this simple, I mean, when you go up and you talk to, I mean, I've met dozens of doctors and PhDs and all the rest of them and government representatives, but the minute you start talking about this, they just basically turn their back. Because, I mean, they're being paid enough money to do just that. You know, I mean, the simple truth is a 5-year-old can understand what I'm telling you. I mean, there's nothing to this. Any fool can make the medicine. But, you know, we just can't go there. It's not proven. There's no human studies. Well, I treated about 5,000 people when I was in business here in Canada. But, of course, that's not a human study. Well, they can take their human studies and shove them, as far as I'm concerned. Because, I mean, when you see one person after another cured with cancer, chronic pain, you know, and people being treated very successfully for diseases like MS, you know, and all these horrible, incurable illnesses. I mean, who needs a human study? I've done it. As far as I'm concerned, all we have to do is start making this oil and start healing the people. And that's what I want to see take place. And I don't want to see any more regulations on this. Not, you know, like, we don't need decriminalization. We need complete legalization, the same as it was in the past. No more of this nonsense.
Well, and again, I'll go a little step further and say we don't even need legalization, but we just need to stop doing what this government tells us altogether. They're not our government. They're not the authority, and these are not laws they're trying to force on us. It's not criminal in the first place. It doesn't need to be decriminalized. That's a fight they want us to take up. They want us to spend hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars on lawyers to go and start fighting this and spend a decade of our lives trying to get the government to decriminalize something that's never been criminalized in the first place.
Right. And that's the argument I gave to Jack Hare when Jack and I had a bit of an argument about this. And I told him, you know, I said, why are we going by a law that doesn't even exist, Jack? And he couldn't argue that point. I mean, this is the bottom line. But, you know, I think it's just horrible. And I mean, I look at today, you know, with this information I brought the world, well, I mean, a lot of people have acted on it. You know, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, have used this oil now, and they know what it can do. But still, there's a good segment of our society, they're still saying, you know, well, prove it to me. You know, apparently they can't find a computer and they don't know how to get on the internet because the proof, it's wall to wall on the internet. Testimonials are everywhere. You know, there's all kinds of information. And as I understand it, what I'm told, I've been number one on Google now for months. You know, but nobody knows how to, you know, and they honestly, when people contact me, it's almost as if they expect me to come to their home and prove it to them in person. You know, well, there's 7 billion people on this planet, and I just don't have the time to do that. But, I mean, I see people today, there's no self-reliance. You know, they want to be led by the hand, you know, in everything. And that's not what a human being is supposed to be. I mean, we are supposed to have some kind of self-sufficiency and self-reliance, I believe. And that is badly, badly lacking, you know, today. But, I mean, like I said, we're winning the battle and people are waking up. But, you know, I mean, what would you do today if you had a child right now that had cancer and the government was trying to force that child to take chemo? What would you do? You know what I mean?
I think personally speaking, I think a lot of people know me enough that that's not even a question I need to answer. But more and more people are now saying that they would unfortunately, people want to wait until they've done that third round of chemotherapy and be told to go home and die, which has just effectively sealed their fate before starting to take the marijuana oil, right? Instead of just going, it's the fear, right? The doc, if you don't do chemo, you have no chance. Well, I might as well do the chemo, and if that doesn't work, then I'll do the marijuana oil. So after they've just doused themselves with mustard gas for 6 months,
right.
Now they want the cannabis oil to perform a miracle and fix what the mustard gas has now just spent the last 6 months destroying as well? Like, come on.
Well, many times the oil could even save people that are badly damaged. I'd say something to the tune of 80% can be saved. Even people that have chemo and radiation, if they follow the program properly and follow our instructions, you know, I'd say right around 80% of these badly damaged people can still be saved. But even the ones that can't be saved, at least when they go on the oil, they live, you know, much longer than the medical system expected. They have a good quality of life, and when they do pass away, they die with dignity. But the beauty of this stuff is, I mean, if just like you said, if you just got a diagnosis of cancer and you had none of their nonsense, none of their treatments, it's basically a given that this oil is going to heal you.
Yes. But they want their pound of flesh. They want their blood sacrifice. They want you to take their $50,000 per dose chemotherapy that gets billed to Health Canada, which is you end up paying for that anyways at the end. They want your money. The pharmaceutical company wants to profit off you before you die, and they want to keep you around long enough to make sure they profited off you before you die.
From what I understand, Dean, the Canadian government is putting out something to the tune of $15 billion a year on chemo. Now that's $15,000 million. Yep. I think they should take a small percentage of that and just put it in my hands and let me bring the cure to the world. If they did that, it might save what's coming in the future. But I mean, what I see happening now, I mean, where there's so much information out there and so many people have been healed, and I've right along, I have proposed no violence, no retribution. But I mean, how long can you hold these people back? And I think very soon now the bullets are going to start flying. I mean, there's nothing I can do to stop it other than, speak and try to calm people. Well, but how do you calm someone, that's having their child taken right out of their home and taken into a hospital and filled full of poison? How do you calm a person like that?
Well, you don't, but I think that's actually why we're getting more active in the law movement too. I mean, I've been around here for 15 years now myself. Believe me, I can feel your pain when you say you get, you see the lack of progress over the last 10, 15 years, and it's really disheartening and it's demotivating. But I've never seen the kind of momentum like I've seen in the last 2 years now. People are sick of what's going on. People are waking up to what the governments are doing, and they're not our governments. I keep saying government, but they're actually not our government. The corporations. The government of Canada is a private foreign corporation. It is not our government. We've proven this. We know it, and that's why we want people to leave. We're starting to teach people now how to make their homes their castle again, how to make it so that SWAT can't kick the door in and steal their product. And if they do, it's them that trespass, and it's them that's going to go to jail and go to court and be fined millions of dollars. We're teaching people that all right now. We're practically applying these concepts ourselves right now. So the bullets aren't going to start flying, I don't think. I used to think that a couple of years ago. I don't anymore. I think that all it's going to take is people waking up and learning their rights and sending notice off to the government that says, hey, you're not the government, you're not my government, and you're not telling me what to do anymore. That's it. It's done. It's over. I'm out.
You can't negotiate with psychopaths. I mean, take somebody like a serial killer or a psychopathic serial killer like Ted Bundy. Now, if you have no way to force him to stop his activities,
then you should.
Do you think you can negotiate with Ted and make him stop killing people?
Nope.
Not a hope in hell.
Well,
I mean, this is what's going on. We're trying to negotiate with psychopaths, and that don't work.
Well, I'm not negotiating with them. I'm telling them to leave. You're done. You're gone. You're out of my life. Don't speak to me again. You people have no authority over me. You have no say in what I do with my life. That was just what happened with me 2 months ago there when a cop tried to enforce their usual nonsense on me about driver's licenses and license plates, and he tried to falsely arrest me, so I threw him around the parking lot, and 26 days later, there's no charges against me. Okay, so I won.
Good.
That's simple. I'm not negotiating with these people. I'm not negotiating a driver's license. I'm not negotiating a right-of-way. It's my right. There is no negotiation.
Okay, Dean, can I interject here? What if, Rick was to come back and set up again, and stand in that lawful truth of knowing, once you share the information and the lawful procedure, what's to stop a raid and him going through that trauma and all that loss again? How would he prevent that?
Well, you can do everything in the world to change your status, to give him notice of who you are now and what you're going to be doing, and to leave you alone. In the end, it's like he just said, though, is that sometimes that only makes you a target now because you showed such public defiance. If the government doesn't do something, everybody's going to be scratching their heads going, well, hey, we must be able to do that as well because look at this guy. They're not doing anything to him, right? So sometimes that just paints a bigger target on your back initially. But that's who the great freedom fighters on the world have always been, right? The people of renown, the people in history that records are still maintained of, that were the people that actively stood up to the government first. And they took the brunt of the wrath of the government, but they did it gladly and willingly, knowing that they were making a difference and that it would wake people up in the end. So, I think.
Well, Rick, here's an interesting thing. Like you were in court before. You went through all this as a defendant, and what Dean's getting at is you will now be a witness
Well,
okay, if it happened again, isn't that what you're saying? That it would be a different...
not a witness. You have the right to do it, which means the problem is you weren't aware of what was going on in the court system, in the legal system, with their legalese and the status and how they remove your rights with their charges and with the jurisdiction of the court that you're in. You weren't aware of any of that. And when that gets corrected and you start to learn a little bit about your human rights and you correct your status, which is how the government views you, all that goes away. Your rights basically are restored, and they can't trample on your rights. And we already have all our rights intact. Statutes are not laws. And the government cannot do anything. They cannot pass any law to abrogate or infringe one of our rights.
Well, Dean, I mean, back when I was going through the court system, I kept thinking that these people are going to sober up. You know, I mean,
Nope.
It was so obvious, and I mean, but when they stopped the 10 patients I had there to testify, they wouldn't let them on the stand. They wouldn't let the doctors on the stand. They wouldn't let the scientific evidence be introduced. I mean, it was just crazy what took place. But I kept hoping that somewhere along the line these people would wise up, but they never did.
Nope.
It just continued on. And,
That's not their job.
I mean, I get this all the time, from people, come back to Canada and, and help us. Well, I've been fighting this battle for many, many years now. And there's all kinds of people that say, well, we support you. But the thing is, I mean, you don't support me by sitting on your damn Chesterfield. You support me by standing beside me and putting an end to this.
Yep.
And I mean, what I see, most people just want me to go fight their battle for them.
You're preaching to the choir on that one, believe me, Rick.
Yeah, and I mean, right now, I have no intention of living in Canada again. This country has totally sickened me. I mean, I love Canada. This is my homeland. But when I see what these idiots have done to it, my father fought in Normandy. He was badly wounded in Normandy, fighting against tyranny and fascism. And today, Canada and the U.S. are the biggest fascist states on the planet, for God's sakes.
Oh, fascism won in World War II, didn't you know?
Yeah, I knew it. Now we're seeing a lot more evidence of it, though.
Yeah. But now, here's a question. So you're kind of traveling Europe, and you're planning on going back to Europe then?
Oh, yeah. So I'm going back within about a month. I'll be going back to the Czech Republic, and then I have to go to Spain, or not Spain.